So obviously you survived, Denise. That's amazing. And you know, what a beautiful soul we still get to have in this world. So what happened after like hospital stay? What did the recovery look like?
2 weeks in ICU, 2 weeks in step down, and then a week in inpatient rehab. So a total of 40 days in the hospital. She was intubated and unconscious for the first 9 days in ICU. And I can't say enough positive stuff about the staff at DCU and her critical care people. I mean, they were amazing. And there was this doctor was a firecracker, and she came in on, I think it was day 9. Denise was still intubated, and they were talking to her. They were saying, yeah, she's starting to breathe over the intubation. And the doctor looked at him and said, okay, why is she still intubated then? And everybody just kind of like stood upright, turned around, and went to work. And as soon as they did that, it was a total turnaround for Denise. She was breathing on her own. She started really responding to touch and sensation and verbal cues and things like that. But it was 14 days into it. June 19th is when she was able to answer who her boys were.
Were you surprised, or were you like, yeah, of course she came back around and can say her baby's names, right? Let me tell me, what did that feel like?
Early on, it was a mindset of when, not if. Okay. I knew these things were going to happen. I knew we were going to do these things. I had started formulating a plan in my head of when, not if.
Right.
I would whisper in her ears that she needed to pull through this, that once she pulled through, I was going to get her through whatever we needed to do, but she just needed to get through this part because I couldn't do that for her.
Yeah.
I facilitated it as best I could. The positive atmosphere, having the right people around her, her best friend there, her parents coming to visit her, her aunts coming down, all of that. We were surrounding her with those things that we knew that she would want or do herself, to be able to let her come through that part. When she came through that part, we knew what we were going to be able to do.
So Denise, do you remember, what's your first memory?
It's really challenging, Dan, because one of the things Ben didn't mention is that he was very good about taking videos. And so there are videos of me from like the first day in the hospital bed. And so I have over time watched and seen those videos, so much so that I kind of have retroactively formed memories. So to answer that question, I don't know. So,
I think she started forming real memories like the last couple of days that we were in the hospital. And then even when she got home, she still wasn't fully Denise.
I was a little foggy.
Sure.
One of our activities before the incident with our boys was we would read to them every night. And when we first came home, we had a friend of mine convert our dining room into a bedroom.
Downstairs.
We have a 2-story house. So Denise was in a wheelchair for 4 months. So she wasn't able to go up and down stairs while she was in the wheelchair. And then once she was out of the wheelchair, we still use the wheelchair intermittently because of fatigue and pain and things like that. And we tried it once, me carrying her upstairs. But the risk of the two of us falling down the stairs was greater than the reward of being upstairs. So we did that once. And then
it was very romantic.
It sounds like it. I picture like Ben like, oh my God, we shouldn't have done this. So that's great.
Yes, as her head's like looking over the railing as to see the where we would fall.
Thankfully, the boys were in bed.
That is so beautiful. That's a great story.
So one of the things that we would do would be to read to them at night. We wanted to get Denise into that routine as quick as we could. So the boys would sit on the arms of her chair in the dining room or the living room, excuse me, and she would read to them. And Gavin, our oldest, one time said, "Dad, it's not Mama. I don't like how she reads to us."
Oh.
And it was because she had trouble seeing the page. She had trouble just trouble reading the words to them. How she sounded was different.
Yeah.
She's in a tremendous amount of pain. She can't see very well. It's sitting up for her for long periods of time. She would get tired after that, and it was at the end of the day. So it's a very challenging scenario for her, but she still wants to do it. And so it was really hard for me to hear our son say that. But we pushed through it, and eventually was reading to them, and they wanted her to read to them. So it was kind of good to see that part of it.
Denise, you're sitting here with us today, but I noticed you're running, and I was just like, that's amazing, So and I know that you guys have had some other adventures. So what led you from the point where it was probably even hard to get up, sit up to read a book to where explain that beautiful piece of your journey, because you guys went on a road trip, not even a road trip. You explain it, because that was so cool.
So the first time,
well, to me, they were all challenges. I've never in my life been a person to back down from a challenge. So like Ben said, it wasn't if, it was when. So when am I going to walk again? Well, if I can walk again, I'm going to run again. And if I'm going to run again, I can ride a bike again, and I can swim again, and I can downhill ski again, and I can ride a horse again. So
early on, we said, we will do all the things that we want to do. Denise will do all the things that she wants to do. It may not look the same, but it will be what we want. And so the first time, I believe it was September 30th of that year, was when she was given the okay to actually bear weight on that leg that was basically shattered. Yeah. So she was told, okay, you can stand up on it. And she walked 10 steps the first time that she stood up on it at home. And did we get it on tape? We got it on tape. And then thankfully she was leaning close to the wall, because I probably should have been next to her and not videotaped it, because she kind of just started listing and tipping and tipping and tipping and caught and ended up leaning against the wall.
You seem very determined.
It was strengthening. We just got her in conjunction with her physical therapy. I've done strength and conditioning and personal training and coaching of swimming, running, biking for years. So it was just a matter of putting all those things together for my ultimate client. And she would go to physical therapy 3 days a week, and we would go to the YMCA 5 days a week, or we would do it at a park where she would be walking. And at first we just started doing walking intervals where she would walk, for 30 seconds and then take a minute or two break. And then we would just keep building that up. And she would go to the YMCA. She started walking with a cane. We'd take the elevator up to the track, walk around the track with her cane until the point where we had progressed, where she was taking the stairs up to the track and walking with a purpose. She was walking fast. And then once she was walking fast and couldn't really walk any faster, we started running. She started jogging in place for just 10 steps in place.
So it sounds like it was very much like a brick building sort of situation where you guys are trying to you're not even trying to get back. You're just getting to where you are. And it's like, you know, every day there's another step, right? Another little piece. And that's something I try to explain to my viewers because, you know, we talk about my alcoholism, my struggle with my family and what I've gone through over the years. And I try to tell people it's so easy to say, I want to be there now, but you can focus so much on the now that getting there now that you're not paying attention to all the steps that are required to get there. So that's why I wanted to, you know, take a little pause there to explain to the audience, like, it doesn't always have to be what you want right now as long as you're moving towards your goal.
Time's going to pass anyway. So if a month later, do you want to look back and say, I'm at the same place that I am a month ago? Or do you want to say, I did something more each day, and at the end of that month, you look back and say, oh, wow, I've come a ways. So we have a mindset of always moving ever forward. And the whole process has been bit by bit, you know.
So how did you go from that, you know, one step, those uneasy first steps into getting into an RV, right? And saying, okay, we're to a point now where we can go do the things that we want to do outside of the home. Like, was that obviously that was a family decision, I'm guessing? How did that go down? Where did that play into the journey?
That was just, yeah, it was, we were presented with a scenario, COVID and the shutdown, and the boys, the thought of our savage little monkeys being in front of a computer for 6 hours a day for virtual school was not appealing.
Because we would have to be sitting next to them, sitting on the computer for 6 hours a day.
Like one-on-one sort of thing. Yeah.
Right. And then how much pent up energy were they going to have after 6 months? And at that point, I was doing strength and conditioning. I built out our garage into a studio. Nice. So I was doing strength and conditioning with clients, and had some high risk clients that had previous trauma. And I didn't want to potentially cause them to get COVID. And I didn't want COVID potentially to be brought into our studio. Sure. You know, Denise is a trauma survivor. How is she going to deal with COVID if she got it?
Right.
So we were like, well, what can we do? When COVID first hit, we're like, let's get an RV, and this will be over by summertime. We'll just go around for a couple of months. And then I'm looking and things are like closing down, like RV parks are shutting down everywhere. And I said, we need to pump the brakes on this. If we get out on the road and we're stuck out there, first timers, I'm not so sure I want to be, you know, thousands of miles away trying to figure out all of this. Let's just see how this pans out. Yeah. So we did some local adventures. Not in
the RV.
We just did some like local camping adventures, you know, places we could drive to, go to the mountains.
Started off easy, made sure that it's something the family was gonna enjoy. Yeah, you don't want to just jump into an RV and hit the road, I guess. But it sure looked appealing to me watching you guys.
To be clear, we didn't own an RV at that point.
Or you would have probably been on the road.
Yeah. One of the big tests that we did, there's an island off of North Carolina called Portsmouth Island. Yeah. It's one of the Outer Banks islands, but it's uninhabited. So you take a 45-minute ferry ride, they drop you off, and then you're on the island by yourself. And so we planned
spotty cell phone signal.
Wow. So we planned a 5-day camping trip on the beach on Portsmouth Island. And so we had a new tent, a generator and everything. We found our spot on the beach.
It was awesome.
It was great. It was between the sand dunes.
The boys were naked and running around and climbing on the dunes. It was perfect.
Yeah, there was, you know, no bugs. It was beautiful. We all had life jackets, so if we're in the water, you know, we weren't.
I'm seeing a lot of head nods and thumbs up from my brother and my wife. So I think that's a thank you. I think I'm gonna. Yes, we're gonna be living on an island for a little while now. That's awesome. I can't wait, actually. So
it's one of the best experiences ever.
I think going out and doing those things, like living life. Too many of us spend time not living, just doing the things to get through it. I would be watching you guys on your amazing adventures, and another friend of mine named PJ, he and his wife did that too. They traveled in an RV, and she was a nurse, so she would go contract. And I remember just watching and just telling Crystal, about these stories and how brave you guys were, even for doing it after the incident, and how amazing and how it inspired me. And to hear your story, I think is so important because you do inspire and give hope, even regarding adventure, even as just a family, a regular family that didn't go through this adverse thing. I got to watch you guys do something beautiful. So thank you, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that sees that.
Yeah, it was a fun time. We brought Denise from a wheelchair to walking to running to climbing in a rock gym to carrying a 70-pound dumbbell across the gym floor. And so the challenges for Denise are not just her leg. So the brachial plexus injury that we talked about has paralyzed her right arm. So she's not able to use her right arm as far as functional. Like she can move her arm against gravity. She can grip light things like an empty water bottle. She could hold that, but she's not able to use her arm like to turn a doorknob or to carry groceries or to hug or pick up her kids or anything like that. So one of the things that we were bound and determined to do was make it so that she could pick up her boys left-handed, her non-dominant side. And so I started her off, she would carry a 5-pound dumbbell across the gym floor, 10-pound, 15. She carried a 35-pound dumbbell across the gym. So she, needed to rebuild everything from the ground up.
Now you have training and experience in rehab, correct?
I've been a certified strength and conditioning specialist since my undergraduate. So I did my undergraduate degree in exercise physiology. And then I went on and got my master's degree in muscle physiology and biochemistry.
Okay.
So I had the research background as well as the applied background to be able to put it all together. And then the coaching background to basically lay out the plan and set out and help her formulate goals and lay out the path that we were going to travel for her to rebuild all of that strength and build that strength in a way that she hadn't used it before.
So Denise, tell me, where are you at now? I know you mentioned the running and the horseback riding. What's the next, if you don't mind sharing, what's the next challenge? What do you, maybe not, I don't know. It's, you guys just seem to always, I can't even ask the question of where you are now because I feel like tomorrow you're going to be there.
Well, where should I pick? Amelia?
So she's joking. So when she was in the hospital and the speech language pathologist was trying to center her and figure out if she knew where she was, they would ask her, "Where are you?" And she oftentimes would respond with these really cool places. She said, "Oh, Austin, Texas." I'm like, well, we're not quite there yet, but she's at least telling us places that actually exist. And she said the Pacific Northwest another day. And then one day she goes, "Amelia." I'm like, I got nothing against Amelia, Denise, but I don't really feel like we need to go visit rural Amelia County right now. But as far as goal setting, where would you say that you are goal setting now, and what challenge you want to step up to?
That is an interesting question. I haven't thought about that. And we had a little bit of a setback a little bit ago. So I'm reworking my goals. I'll get back to you, Dan.
Well, I actually posted something yesterday on my Instagram about expectations and how dangerous they can be. But tomorrow something can change. So it's important to acknowledge successes and to also see that they may not be a success tomorrow, right? And that's okay, because then we just realign and we keep moving forward. And that's the real tone of what I'm seeing here, talking to the both of you together, you're not going to stop.
Yeah. We've often said that we're going to get there. We don't know when. And, what is there, right?
Yeah.
That we're going to get there. But I think if it's more along the lines of a philosophy, we're going to do the things that we want to do.
Yeah.
And so as long as we keep striving toward that, and I tend to isolate it and say with trauma, it's always an up and down, but that's kind of just how everybody is,
Yeah.
things can get in the way. Denise's progress in one area is like off the charts, and in another area it may stop or go backwards a little. And then we have to almost regroup and refocus and say, oh, we need to bring this back up. Her ability to remember, her ability to hold conversations, her ability to take care of things on her own is amazing now compared to what it was. One of the things that was challenging for me so I was out with Denise for over a year because people on the police department donated time. And so I was able to stay home with her, take care of her, do everything that needed to be done, take her to physical therapy appointments and things like that. And then when I went back to work, she still wasn't 100% there for remembering to do things like her medication. So I've had an alarm on my phone and my watch. I actually still do to this day, just out of habit, that she needs to take her medication at 1:30.
Yeah.
And so I would be calling her from work, making sure that she took it. And there would be days that she didn't take it. And it was like, oh, good, thanks for reminding me. And so, but now I don't need to remind her for that at all. And there's, she's fine,
Yeah.
and you just meeting her for the first time, you wouldn't know that she's been through that incident.
Nope.
There's still little things that I see and that she sees, but for the most part, she's Denise.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is so important. It's so important to remember that just because we change, we know that those people are always still there, and you got to fight for each other.
We're just regular people that figured out how to get through it. And what we used in the moment didn't seem like it was special, but looking back on it and talking to other people, that other people can do it if they just hear about it. What we did is simple, but it might not be easy. But if people hear how simple it is and what we did, the simplicity of what we did and how they could take that into their lives, they might be able to get through something that they're going through.
I think that sharing these struggles, no matter what they be, sharing our struggles with each other, I'm able to look at you and Denise and see a beautiful relationship there that said we are not giving up, and that's so important. If you love somebody, you can't give up on them, and you got to be there for them, but you also have to recognize that they're on their own individual journey, as you mentioned, Ben, and I know that a lot of the guests out there are on their own individual journey. Please take a moment to look at Ben and Denise and their family and their beautiful boys and what they've and their sister, Denise, your sister, and Ben, your father, who probably had a lot of insight from his shared experience of what was happening in his life. So bravo for coming on and sharing your message, and I see you guys trying to get out there. I think you're a beautiful family, and I continue to discuss the impacts that you've had on me, and if we can impact one person, we can impact many people. So I appreciate you guys coming on, and if there's any other pieces of your experience you'd like to share with us, you can reach out, and eventually we're going to get your butts in the studio, you know what I mean?
It's the mindset of not if, but when. If there's a goal that you want to get to, it's think of it as when I get to that goal, and move bit by bit ever forward toward that goal.
How about you, Denise?
We've kind of developed that same philosophy. And so very shortly after the incident, Ben decided to reframe things, like he said, and not focus on the negative, but focus on the positive. And he started with my boys and my sister and his dad, because I was in the hospital, at dinner every night, doing what we call What's Your Positive, which is where anyone can initiate it, but we go around the dinner table asking each other what your positive is. And it usually started out as one, maybe two things. And now every person says like 8 things. And then when somebody else says something, they're like, oh yeah, that's on my list too. So we share the same philosophy. That's one thing that has become very important to our family.
Well, acknowledge the negatives that happen in your day, but still celebrate the positives.
Well, I'm going to celebrate a positive with you, okay? Because I think that's a grand idea, and I might even start doing that in my house. Reaching out to old friends and being able to form new relationships is amazing. Denise, I've met you for the first time, and my brother and my wife have now heard your story. So it's a real honor to meet you. And Ben, thank you for stopping me from burning my olive oil. So do you guys have any positives you'd like to share? Anybody before we wrap this up? Ben?
My positive is you helping us share our stories so that we can help other people get through whatever challenges they have.
Thank you very much. Denise?
I would agree that being on the podcast is a positive, and every opportunity we have to kind of go back and not relive, but remember the incident, it allows me to refocus and remember what we're doing, why we're doing it, and
How far you've come.
it's not just about me, it's about the family, how far the family has come.
Yeah, it was more than just a personal